I also want to give a bit of a pep talk and say a few words about the center. First of all, we saw so many videos of Swami Swananandaji this afternoon that my mind is back with him, and how he had such a longing to spread Vedanta throughout the country. He had such zeal for spreading the teachings, and I have to say it's a great blessing that his successor, Swami Sarvadevanandaji, has the same zeal and is continuing with all of the work that Swamiji started. So we're very, very fortunate that Swami Swananandaji was here as the original inspiration, and now Swami Sarvadevanandaji is continuing with that tradition. And everything that Swami Swananandaji touched, eventually, little by little, everything is getting a firm ground. I don't know how many people were here. We heard about Gopesh Maharaj telling Swami Swananandaji that he wanted to see a center in every main city or capital city everywhere. So that was why he wanted this, our Washington, D.C. center. And I'm reminded also, when I came back from India in 1996, I just had my sannyasa. And Swami Swananandaji pulled me aside and he said, "We're thinking of starting a center in Washington, D.C. And I said, "Oh, okay." And then he said, would you be willing to go if I want to send you there? Now I knew Swami Swananandaji. Every day he had a different scheme. And better not to say no. He'd say yes, of course, and then within a week he'd forget the whole thing. It would be something else. So I told him that I was very happy in Trabuco, that I wasn't very anxious to go anywhere, but if he wanted me to go, I would go. So he said, "Bah, very good." And later it turned out that it was not just a scheme, that it actually happened. But he told me one thing. He said, "You'll find that it's a great blessing to do pioneer work." This is what I want to stress tonight, pioneer work, to start a new center from ground zero and build everything up. What a tremendous joy it is, responsibility, privilege, all of these. And we all have that here. This is what I want to emphasize, that there's a tremendous responsibility, there'll be a great amount of joy, and it has to be taken very seriously. Swamiji was saying how people will judge the Ramakrishna order, they'll judge Ramakrishna and everything by the way we behave here and how we develop the center. And what do we need? What's important? What are the main ingredients for being the people responsible for this center? It's still a private center. Swami Sarvadevanandaji is in charge, of course, and he'll send me in now and then if there are any trouble spots to take care of little things. But it's really in the hands of all of you. I'm talking now to the people on really the main people, essential workers. Now, what is the main essential thing in starting a center? I'll tell you something that strikes me as a little bit unusual, but I think it's humility. And I'll tell you why. For one reason is, when we look at the life of Swami Vivekananda, usually the last thing we think of is humility. We think of boldness, not so much humility. But if we really look at some of the things he did and the things that he said and everything, what did he say? He said that Sri Ramakrishna could take from the dust of the earth, he could make thousands of Vivekanandas if he wanted to. And he said, if anything I've ever said was true, it's his words and his alone. If it's not true, it was mine and mine alone. Tremendous humility. I want to tell about an incident. I read it years ago, and I tried to find it, the reference to it. I couldn't find it. But I remember enough of it that you'll get the point of the whole thing. Swamiji had come back from the West, and he was in his room pacing back and forth, and I think it was one of his direct disciples. Heard him reciting a verse, a very nice verse. It says, Abhimanam Surapanam Gaudavam Gaudaraudhavam Parishta Shukari Vishta Trayam Tyaktva Sukhi Bhavet. So this Abhimanam Surapanam, it's like getting drunk on wine, this feeling of pride and ego. It's like drinking too much wine or alcohol and just getting completely drunk. And Gaudam, we want respect. Everybody wants respect. and honor and everything. For Swamiji, this was like the worst torture of hell, to have people respect him. Remember, when he came back from the West, what's the first thing that he did? I don't want to be president. Maharaj is your president. He turned all of his money over to him, all the power, everything. He didn't want that parishta. That means position. He didn't even want to be the president. What is this? It's like the droppings of a pig. Shukri Vishta. A very nice verse. And then he said, these three, Tarayam Tyaktva, give up these three things, Sukhi Bhavit, and just be happy and content. Now, to me, these are the essential features for because he was the best leader, best possible leader. And this was his attitude. He didn't care for name and fame or anything like that. When in the West, when people were criticizing him and everything, and he felt very bad about it. Why? Only because of his mother. That she'll feel so bad if they think that her son is a cheat, this and that. Otherwise, for himself, he couldn't care. So this is the essential ingredient, I think. If we want to lead, we have to serve. This is the main thing. There's a very nice line, a verse from a shloka, part of the hymn that Chaitanya Deva wrote. You know, Chaitanya Deva, he was a tremendous, proud Sanskrit Pandit when he was young. And he would tear to pieces all of the other Pandits. They would do their verses, he would find mistakes in it, they were all afraid of him. And all the spiritual people in town, he would make fun of them. Then he went to Gaya to do Shraddha for his father, and he met at Ishwarpur. He had a complete turnaround. Then after that, he never wrote anything except this one hymn. And we recite the English version of this every day in all of our Southern California centers. And there's one line that says, be humbler than a great blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like the tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. Now, I have a slightly different understanding of this verse. This Kirtaniya Sadahari, who was qualified to take the name of the Lord? Who was qualified to be a bhakta? Who was qualified to help to begin a center? These are the four different qualifications. Unless we have these, we're not qualified to do it. To be humbler than, what is a blade of grass? Huh? People walk on it, step on it. Doesn't say anything. Then what about the tree? Turodapi Suhishnana. The tree, it'll stand there in the hot sun. It'll be there with the snow falling on it. People will cut its branches for firewood. And still it gives shelter to everyone. Doesn't say anything. Then Amanina. Then we have to be able to show respect to everybody. Manadena. But Amanina, we don't care for respect for ourselves. If we look at the verse this way, these are the ones who are qualified to be bhaktas. So it's a question of adhikara, really, this verse. That who is qualified to call themselves a devotee? I'm a devotee of the center. We have to have this forbearance and this humility and not caring for honor, prestige, parishta, sukri vishta. Who cares who is president, vice president, head of a committee, this and that. Everyone has to work together and with great love and respect. So these are the things, if we can do these things, then the center will really grow and thrive. I want to say a few things. These are things that I won't say at our Washington, D.C. center, but I can say it here. This is not my center. Money is necessary. Money is necessary. Volunteer work is necessary, and participation. These are the three things that we need. People who really like to come and participate with oddity and programs and lectures and things like that. But money, I'll tell you a story that Swami Swananji used to tell. There was a preacher, they were trying to build a new addition to their church. And the congregation is there, and he said, I have good news and I have bad news. And he said, what is the good news? The good news is, we have enough money to build the new addition to the church. And everybody say, how wonderful. And then, what is the bad news? It's still in your pockets. Now, What did Sri Ramakrishna say about giving money away? Did he say much about it? A little bit. We heard about Surendra Suresh Mitra. He was one of Thakur's great charitable disciples. He worked in an office. Now, Sri Ramakrishna had a certain attitude towards people who had to work for profit, and if they work in an office, then they can't always be 100% truthful or ethical. They have to compromise a little bit. He had all of these Marwari devotees. He liked them. He said they're real Hindus and everything, but they're business people. So he couldn't take their food even, and he wouldn't give it to anybody but Narendra. He could digest anything. So he said one day, this Surendra, he works in an office, and he has to be a little compromising with regard to honesty and things like that. But why do I take his food? Because he's so charitable. He gives away more than he takes in. And then he told a very nice parable about a farmer bringing water from the reservoir into his field. We read the Gospels from Ramakrishna. There's so many different parables about bringing water to the irrigation parables. Somebody should write a book just on that, irrigation parables. And this one, he says that when the farmer cuts the channel to connect the reservoir to the field, that sometimes if they raise the floodgate, that the water comes down with such force that it'll break the side of the channels. So in different places they make holes so the water can seep out, so that the rest of it will get into the field. And he said that this allows the field to be fully irrigated. Plus, the water that seeps out is very rich in silt, so that the land around it becomes very well fertilized and irrigated and everything, and very good for growing crops. So he said in the same way that this letting the water out, this is giving money in good causes. I don't like to say charity, because why will we call it a charity? This is our own place. Another idea that I have when we talk about people volunteering, I don't like this word, volunteering. Do you volunteer to clean your own house? It's your own house. Why should we expect it? But this is your own place here. The same thing. It shouldn't be volunteer work. This is my own. We have to have this feeling, this I and mine. The I and mine for the jnani is a very bad thing. For the bhakta, it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing. The devotee, this is my center, that I'm responsible for it. I want to love and cherish this and make sure that it grows and work for it. Not that I'm doing some volunteer work for some other organization. It's my place. So if we can have this type of attitude, this will be very, very helpful for us and for the center. So this is my pitch, that everyone should be very generous, because there's going to be a great need. The expenses will go up. Ultimately, there's a plan to add an addition, because if you've looked at this place, you'll see that there's no place for any sadhu or visitor to really stay, and we need a dining hall and a big kitchen. So there's a plan to make an addition in the back of the new center. That ground floor will be a dining hall and a nice kitchen and everything. And upstairs there'll be 3 or 4 rooms, so the visiting sadhus can stay and some out-of-town guests can stay. All of this will take money. At our center in Washington, we find that people like to do it with the monthly donation. People who've been giving $100 or $75, $50 a month for 25 years now, and they like to do it. They'll come and say, "Oh, Maharaj, please forgive me, I forgot this month," and everything, because they feel that it's their own. So if we can develop that feeling, this is our own place, then it's not like I'm giving money to somebody else or for somebody else. It's for us. And let me just mention one other very nice thing. This is something that I heard, not directly, secondhand, that Swami Ranganathananda Maharaj used to say. When he would see a center that's just starting, he would say, remember that we're not starting this center for anybody here. We're not doing it for the sake of your children. we're doing it for the sake of your grandchildren. So we have to think that we're building up something not just for ourselves, for future generations. That this will be a light, this will be a refuge, will be a haven for many, many people in generations to come. So this is my pitch, these three things. Be generous. Be generous and offer service to the center and participate. You'll find one of the great things is that it becomes a family, that people work together and this feeling of love and this family feeling comes and people love it. We, in Washington, we find that one of the nicest days for everyone is Saturday morning. That's our karma yoga period. Everyone comes and they vacuum and they clean and they do outside work, and it's a very joyful thing. If you can get that going here, that'll be wonderful. And have programs that people will come to. Don't just wait for the sadhus to come. This is the test. If you can keep that spirit of enthusiasm up when there are no visiting sadhus. Still, have some readings and some classes and watch videos and have discussion groups. All of these things will develop slowly. They'll all be put on the website and everyone will find out about it. So if we can have this feeling of generosity towards the center, feeling of participation, feeling of oneness, and to serve the center with great humility and with great love. Love for the ideal, love for the center, without anybody caring about any name and fame or anything like that. There are only three indispensable people here. Thakur, Ma, and Swami. That's all. The rest of us, we're all servants. We're all their helpers. That's all. So this is my plea and my prayer, again, to Thakur, Ma, and Swamiji, Jagadhatri Ma, Mother of the Universe, that everyone will work together with great love and respect and humility, and that this center will continue to grow and will be a lasting benefit to this generation, next generation, and many generations to come. So I thank you all, and now I'm very happy to request Swami Sarvapriyanandiji to come and speak.